Don't be afraid of the dark. Just relax and let the darkness fall over you.
Welcome to Afraidish, a weekly podcast where each month two cousins venture into a new state and take a deep dive into the paranormal and unexplained while enjoying some tasty adult beverages. From ghost sightings to hauntings, urban legends, and cryptids. Let's get weird and afraid-ish together. I'm Paul Branham.
I'm Andrew Robertson. So a few months ago, you came to me with this idea to do this podcast. Like a scary, paranormal podcast. And not gonna lie, at first, I was a little skeptical. Because I'm like, man, I don't know how we're gonna do this. Then, you had this idea to just do like state by state, and then after that we're gonna move to like different countries, and I got a little bit more excited, doing a lot more research, and I think I've got some pretty good stories today.
Yeah, me too. I have 2 stories, and you have how many?
I have 2
awesome.
As well.
So we're gonna do 2 stories each. Hopefully it's gonna be long enough.
If not, it's fine. This is our first episode. I'm not super worried about length. I'm just worried about getting out a product for people to listen to.
Yeah, we've got a shit ton of content. Yeah, each state has so many hauntings, so many cryptids, hell, even so many UFO sightings. It's crazy.
Fuck yeah, man. I'm beyond excited. Let's get this shit on the road, man.
Alright, let's get started. So my first story is the Landers Theater. Located at 311 East Walnut in Springfield, Missouri, in the Walnut Street Historic District, built in 1909, it is a 4-story red and white brick building, seated roughly around 1100, built by John Landers, his son Douglas J. Landers, R.N. Stewart, Effie McJimsey, and George Ollendorf. John Landers owned a lumber business, so he used wood for almost all of the framework, which was unusual since most buildings used steel and cast iron for framework at that time. Building design was created by the Baller Brothers, an architectural firm based in Kansas City, Missouri. It is a combo of several architectural styles such as Baroque, Renaissance, and Neoclassical Napoleon. The theater has 2 balconies, rooms on the 4th floor, and a basement under the main floor. I fucking hate basements, by the way.
Dude, I don't fuck with basements either. That shit fucking creeps me out.
Yeah, I have a crawl space, and I don't fucking go in there.
Dude, I don't fuck with crawl spaces either. I got one under my house. I don't fucking go under there.
It's crazy. Anyway, it had the 2nd largest stage in Missouri. It was the 2nd oldest and largest civic theater in Missouri. It was designed for live performances with a large stage and supporting spaces. The theater started showing vaudeville and tabloid shows. Its first show was a musical called The Golden Girls.
Is that anything like the Betty White Golden Girls? I fucks with that heavy, bro.
Yeah, fucking, they were awesome. A major fire broke out on December 17th, 1920. The theater was a total loss. No, I'm sorry. The theater wasn't a total loss thanks to guess what kind of curtain?
What kind?
Asbestos.
Asbestos?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
The whole curtain.
But how is asbestos bad? It has best right in the name.
Well, it is fireproof. So the whole fucking curtain was made of asbestos. And then some other fireproof precautions. I'm assuming like...
Fire escapes?
Fire escapes, probably.
Fire escapes? Fucking...
Anything else. Renovations moved the orchestra pit behind the curtain and raised the boxes. And now sits 525.
Damn, that's a fucking lot.
Yeah, they cut it in half. Over half of what it originally seated. Heavy beams replaced the columns supporting the balconies, and the segregated ticket booth and its separate entrance were removed. Yeah, so it was a segregated theater.
It was a
separate entrance.
Time ago too.
Yeah, they had a separate entrance for black people. In 1928, it became the 35th facility in the world to have sound film. The theater closed for a few years during World War II, then opened back up after the war, continuing to be a movie house. From March 17th through September 22nd, 1961, NBC TV put on a national live country music variety program called 5-Star Jubilee on Friday nights. It was the first network color television series to originate outside of Hollywood and New York City. Can you believe that shit?
That was here in town?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
The only one, the first outside of Hollywood and New York City.
That's fucking badass.
Yeah.
I never knew that.
The other 6 nights of the week, first-run films are continued to be shown. Landers Theater was in need of a restoration and was put up for sale in 1970. Formed in 1934, the Springfield Little Theater organization bought the building, and it is now called Springfield Little Theater. They spent $500,000 restoring it back to its 1909 splendor. In 1977, Landers Theater was placed on the National Register of Historic Places. Most recent restorations have been cited with awards from the American Institute of Architects. Now to the hauntings. During the time of racial segregation in the 1920s, a man was stabbed and killed in the segregated second balcony. This ghost is described as being a green orb or phosphorescent haze. It's about 5 feet tall and is seen in the second balcony and on the landing between the first and second balconies. That area is said to be 20 degrees colder than the rest of the theater. The 1920 fire allegedly killed the janitor. I say allegedly because some say no one actually died in the fire. Actors often see him in the balcony area. He likes to watch them rehearse. A very tragic accident happened during the 1920 fire. Supposedly, a woman dropped her baby while people were running for their lives, and the baby was trampled to death.
God damn.
Yes, that should have been a trigger warning, but I'm sorry. Another story is the baby fell off the balcony, killing it. The mother was obviously horrified, as she should be.
No fucking shit.
Either way, a baby's cries can be heard and a mother is heard comforting the child. Performers often see an apparition of a baby falling from the balcony during rehearsals, which would be fucking terrifying. People in the building sense they're being followed by an unseen presence and then being tapped on the shoulder. I'm assuming scaring the shit out of them. In the past, part of the 4th floor used to be apartments housing touring actors and actresses. People standing on the street in front of the theater have seen a tall apparition of a long-haired, blonde man dressed in Elizabethan? Yes, that word. Elizabethan-era clothing, looking down at them from behind a curtain on the 4th floor. Chuck Rogers, who is the resident scenic designer, co-technical director, and production director, was working at the theater in the 1990s when working late one night when he saw someone standing in the lobby. Thinking it was someone who was able to get in through the front doors, he approached the man to ask him why he was there. He just kind of stood there and stared at me. And I said, "Sir, the building's closed. I need to ask you to leave." And he just stood there. So I started walking towards him, and I walked towards him. He turned around and walked towards the auditorium, in which case I got a little angry and that somebody was in there. So I followed him, and he just stood there and looked at me. So I was going to go over there and escort him out of the building, and he turned and walked into the auditorium, and I went right around the corner to confront him, and there was nobody there. Rogers knows how the story about the janitor came about. It stemmed from the experience he had when he saw the man in the lobby. He had invited friends to come to the theater that night after the incident, and one brought a Ouija board.
Why the fuck would you bring a Ouija board?
Exactly. I don't fuck with that. I've never fucked with one.
I don't do that. Mm-mm.
No. Quote, "She sat on the stairs in our auditorium and, quote, Ouija'd this experience, and what came back was that this person's name was Ned, and he used to be a janitor here in the building," unquote. He says that story morphed into the one about the janitor dying in the fire. Chuck Rogers said he made up the story about the man getting stabbed on the second story balcony. So is this theater truly haunted, or are people just imagining things? How much did Chuck actually make up? Would this theater make you afraid-ish?
Man, I don't know if that place is actually, like, legitimately haunted, but I mean, I know it's pretty fucking creepy.
I think it is. I mean, I'm, like, I can't really say I'm a skeptic, but I kind of believe in that stuff.
I mean, I've seen some shit,
yeah.
But, like, I'm still fairly skeptical, but I'm not about to go to some place that's supposedly haunted and bring a fucking Ouija board.
Oh, fuck no. I mean, I wouldn't say something's haunted unless I actually experienced something there.
Right. I mean, I've been to a few places that were like that as well, but I've never been to the Landers Theater or the Springfield Little Theater.
Neither have I. I mean, I want to see plays there with the wife and stuff.
I mean, I think that'd be pretty cool, but
yeah.
I mean, I've never.
I would love for us to take a fucking tour there.
I mean, do they do ghost tours?
I don't know. Maybe around Halloween, but
maybe.
I'd have to do. I didn't really research that part, but I mean, I'm sure they would.
I mean, if they do ghost tours, I'd be down to go.
Yeah.
You got one more?
I do. It's actually Jesse James Farm.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. Are you ready?
Oh, I'm ready.
According to research, Jesse Woodson James was born in Clay County, Missouri on September 5th, 1847. His father, Robert James, was a Baptist preacher and a slave-owning hemp farmer. His mother, Zerelda Cole James, was a Kentucky native. In 1850, Robert traveled to California to preach in the gold mining camps. Not long after he arrived, he died of a cholera infection. Zerelda and her children, Frank, Jesse, and Susan, fell into hard times financially. In 1852, Zerelda married a rich older man and moved in with him. He didn't like her children and had them live with another family, which is fucking crazy. A short time after, she left him and returned to her first husband's farm with her children. In 1855, she married a third time, and he came to live on the farm, and she had four more children. Fuck that.
That's too many kids.
Yeah, I have 2, and that's enough.
I have 1, and that's enough.
After Jesse and his brother Frank grew up to become outlaws, their mother remained their staunch supporter. During the Civil War, being a border state, Missouri was home to guerrilla fighting initiated by forces on both sides of the conflict. During the start of the Civil War, the oldest, Frank James, fought with the pro-secession Missouri State Guard. He then joined a band of Confederate guerrillas, also called bushwhackers. They attacked Union sympathizers in the region. In May 1863, while looking for Frank and his fellow insurgents, Union militiamen ambushed a teenage Jesse and hanged his stepfather, who survived, by the way.
How the fuck do you survive a hanging?
I guess he got cut down or something.
That's
I don't
one
know,
tough
but
motherfucker.
he survived. When Jesse turned 16, he became a bushwhacker like his brother. The James brothers joined a gang led by William Bloody Bill Anderson and participated in a number of violent raids. In a September 1864 raid on Centralia, Missouri, around 20 unarmed Union soldiers were forced off a train and were executed. Then the guerrillas slaughtered more than 100 federal troops trying to hunt them down. Many of the victims' corpses were viciously mutilated. In April 1865, Confederate General Robert E. Lee surrendered at Appomattox Courthouse. A month later, Jesse was fighting some Union soldiers and was shot in the chest. His cousin, Zerelda Z. Mims, nursed him back to health. They would later wed and have 2 children together. He's a cousin fucker.
He is a cousin fucker.
Yeah.
It was the 1800s. It's a different time.
Different times.
That's all you gotta think about. It's the 1800s. It's a different time.
And it's Missouri.
And it's Missouri.
Near Arkansas.
Near Arkansas.
Okay, Jesse and his brother Frank banded together with some former Confederate guerrillas to rob banks, trains, and stagecoaches. Jesse was first publicly noticed as an outlaw while robbing a bank in Gallatin. He killed the cashier thinking he was a man named Samuel Cox, a pro-Union militia commander who killed the guerrilla leader Bloody Bill Anderson in October 1864. The cashier wasn't that guy. After that, John Newman Edwards, a pro-Confederate newspaper editor in Missouri, became friends with Jesse and promoted him as a hero and Southern patriot of the Reconstruction era. James wrote letters to newspapers defending his actions. Edwards was responsible for helping to create the image of Jesse as a Robin Hood figure. Historians later said he wasn't even close to that of a Robin Hood because he took fucking everything he stole.
Yeah, the Jesse James gang, or Jesse James in general, was...
He wouldn't give it to anybody.
Fuck no, he wanted to keep that shit for himself.
Yeah. In January 1874, the Pinkertons National Detective Agency, which is a whole sort of fucked up situation right there. Anyways, was called
about the Pinkertons.
Yeah, they were something. Was called to hunt down Frank and Jesse after they robbed a train in Gads Hill, Missouri. The agency was founded by Allan Pinkerton in Chicago in 1850. He was a Scottish immigrant and was the first full-time detective on the Chicago's police force. He was also an abolitionist who helped slaves on the Underground Railroad, which is a good thing, I guess.
Yeah, he was actually a pretty standard guy.
He uncovered a plot to assassinate the then President-elect Abraham Lincoln. During the Civil War, he gathered military intelligence for the federal government. The agency was experienced with dealing with train robbers. In March 1874, the agency took the James case. A Pinkerton detective searching for Frank and Jesse in Missouri wound up dead. another Pinkerton agent died chasing the other gang members, Cole and Robert Younger, in another part of the state. That pissed Allen off, and the James gang became a personal mission, basically a personal...
like a vendetta.
Vendetta, yeah.
Yeah.
On January 25th, 1875, just after midnight, a group of Pinkerton agents raided the farm from a tip that Frank and Jesse were staying there. They weren't there during the raid. The agents caused an explosion in the farmhouse by throwing an incendiary device. The explosion killed Jesse and Frank's 8-year-old half-brother and caused their mother to lose part of her arm. After the raid, public support for the brothers went up. Missouri came close to offering them amnesty, but that bill didn't pass, probably because they were racist. In April 1875, one of their mother's neighbors, a former Union militiaman who helped the Pinkerton agents in the raid, was shot to death. Allen Pinkerton stopped pursuing the James brothers right after that. On September 7th, 1876, the gang tried to rob a First National Bank in Northfield, Minnesota. They chose that bank after finding out a former Union soldier and Republican governor of Reconstruction-era Mississippi, Adelbert Ames, moved to Northfield. The Republican and Democrat parties flipped platforms around the 1930s, if you didn't know that. So the Republicans back that day would actually be Democrats today.
I knew that.
Yeah, some people don't know that.
I know.
Republicans don't know
That's God damn it.
Ames, his father-in-law Benjamin Butler, who was also a former Union general and radical Republican politician, was rumored to have deposited $75,000, which is roughly almost $2 million today in that bank. During the
inflation.
Yes. During the attempted robbery, 3 members of the gang went inside and demanded the cashier open the safe, but he refused. After townspeople outside got wind that a holdup was taking place, they engaged in a shootout with the gang members who'd been stationed on the street. The bank cashier was killed by the outlaws, as was a bystander walking by, while 2 bandits were shot to death by townsfolk before the rest of the gang fled. 2 weeks later, following a gunfight near Madelia, Minnesota, the Younger brothers were captured and another gang member was killed. Later, the Youngers were sentenced to life in prison. Robert Younger died behind bars in 1889, while his siblings were paroled in 1901. The James brothers, who had split off from the Youngers before the Madelia gunfight and were the only gang members not caught or killed following the failed robbery, laid low for the next few years, living in Tennessee under assumed names. In 1879, Jesse recruited a new set of criminal associates and embarked on a fresh crime spree. On April 3, 1882, Jesse James was assassinated, shot in the back of the head, while dusting a fucking picture on the wall with his wife and child in the other room in the house he was renting in St. Joseph, Missouri. Fucking shot in the back of the head. While dusting.
Dude was like the most wanted man.
I know. Wow. Anyways, the shooter was Bob Ford, a new recruit to the James gang. Bob's brother, Charlie, was also in the gang and was there during the shooting. Earlier that year, Bob Ford had an agreement with the Missouri governor to take out Jesse for a reward of $10,000, which was, I didn't do the math, how much that would be today.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly, but I do know that was only rumored.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Nobody knows if he actually did that.
But I wouldn't
put it past him. I mean, you're essentially trying to get your freedom, trying not to get arrested or, go to prison because you were running around with this dude who is the most wanted man in America at the time. So, I mean, I wouldn't put it past him.
Yeah, I wouldn't assassinate him unless I got a shit ton of money.
Yeah, I mean, $10,000 back in the 1800s was a lot of fucking money.
Yeah. When the Ford brothers told everyone they killed Jesse, they were convicted of murder and sentenced to death by hanging. But, of course, the governor quickly pardoned them, of course, because he was a Confederate governor in a neutral state. He was pretty racist. So...
Again, it was the 1800s.
It was the 1800s.
In the Midwest.
Yeah.
Technically southern part of the Midwest, so, I mean... pretty racist.
Yeah, Missouri was supposed to be neutral, but it was actually half and half.
Yeah, it was a
half
split state.
Yeah.
It was a split state.
The public was so fascinated with the murder that the Ford brothers reenacted it in a traveling show. In 1884, Charlie Ford completed suicide. In 1894, while visiting a saloon in Creede, Colorado, Bob Ford was shot and killed. Jesse James was buried on the James farm In 1902, his remains were exhumed and transferred to Mount Olive Cemetery in Kearney, Missouri. The farm is now a museum. And now for the hauntings. The farm and house have been considered haunted for over 100 years. The farm is home to a number of lingering spirits. People see lights inside and outside of the buildings. Some report hearing pounding of horse hooves, muffled gunshots, and cries as if the Civil War was still happening. Museum staff have reported an intense feeling of a presence inside the house. Others report hearing hushed voices and footsteps in the nearby woods on foggy days. When they investigated, no footprints or anything were found. Doors are said to slam at random. Is this farm truly haunted, or are people just imagining things? Would this farm make you afraidish?
Damn. So, like, was the Civil War fought on his property? Or the property he was renting?
No, well, the Civil War was all over.
Yeah, but I mean, I didn't know if, like, maybe it was fought on the land, the property that he was renting, where he was killed, because you said that people had heard, like, gunshots and hooves.
That's a separate house. The house he was renting was in a separate town.
Oh, okay.
His family farm.
His family farm. Yeah. Okay, I got you.
That's where his stepbrother was killed and his mom lost his
okay. I mean, I've heard stories of people that have actually been to the Jesse James farm, and they say it's haunted, but personally, I've never experienced it, but I would love to go there.
That would be awesome, yeah.
But, I mean, it's just for the simple fact of just history alone, just going there and seeing what it was like, because I'm sure it's completely, like, restored as in, it's the same as it was, but, like, cleaned.
Yeah, it's a museum, so they keep up with they clean it, and, of course, they don't...
I would just love to go just to see the history of it.
Yeah, that would be fun.
And maybe if they do ghost tours, definitely would take a
ghost tour. You could see where he was buried on the farm, but, of course, his body was moved to the cemetery.
Right. I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right. I've got 2 stories. I've got no setup for either of them.
Okay. This will give me time to sit back and drink my beer.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I drank 2 beers already, so...
Well, I am on my second one, so...
I'm good. All right, so this first one is a... There's no location for it. It was just somewhere here in Missouri, so I don't really know exactly where. It doesn't say where anywhere in the story. This is a Black Eyed Kids story.
Yes.
So this one's called Midnight Caller. Okay, I'm just gonna read it as I typed it. Okay.
Okay.
It almost felt like a dream. I woke up to my dog, Lucy, barking. She was upright on the bed where my husband and I were sleeping with our almost 2-year-old daughter, staring at our door like an unknown stranger was out there rummaging around. I thought she was just freaking out over a house noise. We'd only had her for 3 months and she was still a puppy. It could have been anything. Our roommate, a creak from the house settling, the awnings moving outside in the breeze. I wasn't too concerned initially. I decided the best bet would be to open the door and show her nothing was there. It sounds a bit silly, but it's what we do with our daughter when she gets scared, and I figured it should work with a puppy too, right? I opened the door and she raced to the front door. She stood there, snarling at the door. It was an angry, violent growl, one I had never heard her make before. I looked groggily at her and opened the baby gate, blocking the doorway, planning to open the door and show her everything was okay. The second my hand reached for the deadbolt, Lucy went wild. She started barking and jumped toward me, and when I touched the metal, she suddenly changed her temper. She whimpered, almost like she was afraid, and backing down as her mannerisms changed. So did mine. I wasn't calm anymore. My heart was racing and sinking at the same time. I had been flooded with a mixture of fear and dread. I looked through the peephole, and I can't explain why I looked, but I did. Outside were 2 kids. One was just a smidge shorter than me and didn't look much younger. I'm 21, and she looked to be 16 or 17. She was slender and pale. Her hair was a light shade of honey blonde, and she wore a long, about mid-back, with long, thin, blunt bangs in the front that covered most of her eyes. She wore jeans, a light wash that's popular right now, and a thin olive-colored pullover-style hoodie. She held the hand of a small girl who looked to be around 3 or 4, in the same style jeans and a button-down ivory cardigan. The smaller one looked at the floor shyly, but it had the same shade of hair, tied back in a ponytail. She held a stuffed toy under her arm, and it was identical to one my daughter has, as was their style of dress. Had it not been for the feeling of overwhelming dread and fear, I probably would have asked these children in and given them some tea or hot cocoa to get them out of the bitter cold. Something about them seemed off. At this point, I hadn't made any noise. I hadn't shushed the dog or grumbled, nothing. I hadn't turned on any lights. These kids had no indicators I was at the door. The older one spoke. She had a voice that was mature, confident, strong, accentless. She held her head tilted downward and I couldn't see her eyes. She said, "We have to use your phone!"
Jesus
I
Christ.
stood frozen in fear. How did she know I was there? She raised her head to face me directly, and that was when I saw her eyes. There was a reason I couldn't see them through her bangs. They were black, or dark blue, or dark purple, or a dark, dark purple. They were otherworldly. She said, "Our mother is worried." As someone who has always been interested in creepy stories, I knew what she was the second she looked at me through the door. I have never been one to believe in these things. As a staunch atheist and skeptic when it comes to the paranormal, I had written off many a ghost story from friends and family members eager to tell me their tale. I didn't believe it. Still, I couldn't rationalize my way out of this. I was standing with nothing but a thin wooden door between me and a black-eyed kid. There was no questioning what was right in front of me. I did not answer. Slowly and silently, I backed away from the door, Lucy still cowering at my ankles. She kept talking. "Just let us in to use your phone!" I took another step back, and with that step, the tone changed. At first, she seemed polite. When I took that second step, she became demanding, almost hostile. "We're not going to hurt you. If we wanted to do that, we would have broken in. I'll ask again. May we come in and use your phone?" Lucy snarled at the door, and I inched backwards, though something inside me seemed to be slowly pulling me back toward the door. It wasn't a physical pulling so much as a subconscious need to go back and let them in. I got to my room, covered up the window, locked the door, and sat there in the dim light. I heard her call me back to the door once more, and then quiet. I didn't go back to sleep that night, and I haven't slept right since. I know from reading about them that black-eyed kids can't just come in without permission. I know they haven't hurt anyone, but I still fear I'll be the exception. When I told my husband, he said I was just dreaming. He keeps telling me to forget it, but this lingering feeling of sadness, this dread when the house is silent at night, this fear of a knock at the door, this tells me otherwise. Does this make you afraid-ish?
Yeah, it does. Fucking black-eyed kids scare the shit out of me.
Dude, when I read that story, I was freaked the fuck out. Like, don't let that bitch in. Don't fucking let them in. Oh my god.
That's crazy.
And it's just like, I know, like, sometimes they seem like they're just,
Yeah, they're not
calm.
They're not
But
really...
to me, they seem so demanding, like the let us in.
Yeah.
You have to let us in. Like, no, I'm not gonna I don't let strangers in my house.
I would be crying.
Dude, I'd be fucking crying. God damn.
No, I've heard, like, stories of how they would, like, say, "Can I use your telegraph?" or something.
Yeah,
that would
it's
get me
usually
right
like some old-timey
yeah.
language.
Yeah.
Black-eyed kids freak me the fuck out, man.
Fuck that.
Alright, I've got one more story.
Okay.
This one was actually sent to me from a friend
Awesome.
in West Plains, so I'm going to tell it in their point of view.
Okay.
So they said, my friend, let's call him Gary, lives in a house that his mom bought cheap. All because the previous owner, a guy named Harry, killed himself in the garage because he had been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. Now my buddy has pretty much full reign over the basement, which includes a bathroom, a finished bedroom, a finished living area, and a huge concrete room with concrete walls that leads up to the stairs to the garage where the guy died. We had a strange occurrence happen there before, we'd hear someone stomp down the stairs and the lights in the concrete would turn on and off over and over. Then someone would stomp back up the stairs. Never once would a door open letting someone in or out of the stairwell. And we would run after the person a time or two before we finally accepted what we didn't want to in the beginning. Since then, we've just done our best to ignore it when it happens. Back to the way the basement was laid out. Okay, so my buddy slept in a finished living area that had a staircase going up to the kitchen, and kept a bed and TV in the finished bedroom for guests. The finished bedroom is directly under the garage, and to get into the room you had to open this door that would make a loud popping noise. Because it wasn't seated correctly in the frame, I was sleeping in the guest room. I'm a light sleeper, by the way. One night, with the door shut and when someone slapped the shit out of me, I woke up swinging and instantly I gathered myself.
Oh, shit.
I had the lamp beside me on. There was no one in the room, and the door was wide open. There was absolutely no way to sneak the door open without making a noise. I went to the room where my buddy was, which is through the concrete room, using my phone as a flashlight and leaving the bedroom door open behind me. He was laying there snoring with his TV on Sports Center. I mean, he was out of it. A little shaken, I decided just to go back to bed. Yeah, just as if I was some teenage white girl in a horror movie. When I stepped into the concrete room, the light came on. I froze. And BAM! That's when the door slammed. And that's when I noticed that the bedroom door was now completely shut, where I had left it wide open before. The end.
Big nope. Thank you.
No? You don't like basements?
No.
I know. I don't like basements.
I mean, if that's the only place I had to stay, sure.
When we lived in Kansas, when I was a kid, my brother David slept in the basement, and
did he experience anything?
Some creepy shit.
Oh, fuck that.
I'm gonna have him give me that story, and then I'll tell it on here one day.
Oh man, that'd be awesome.
It's a fucking creepy story, and that's why I don't do basements.
I mean, if it's completely finished and it's like carpeted and it's used for like a family room, I would say, or during the day, yeah, to watch TV. But other than that...
Yeah, I mean, I'd go down there. We had a pool table down there. So I'd go down there and play pool or, go play video games down in the basement. But I would not go down there at night. It's just, it creeped me out and it was too dark. I'm not afraid of the dark. I don't like the dark.
I'm not afraid of the dark. I'm afraid of what's in it.
No, for sure. I get that. I get that for sure. It's just dark. It's just, I can't see. I'm not I'm not a cat. I don't have night vision. I can't see in the dark.
Dude, I've been watching The Haunting of Hill House.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've been watching that right before work. I will not watch anything like that right before bed.
Yeah, I don't do that. You know what I watch before bed?
What's that?
Like fucking Futurama. Something funny.
Yeah, I've been binge watching The Simpsons on Disney Plus.
You got your scary shit during the day.
Yeah.
But at nighttime, it's time to go to sleep. I gotta be happy.
Yeah.
Gotta have sweet dreams.
You don't want to look up and see a fucking ghost looking at you?
Man, sometimes, I have a mirror in my bedroom, so sometimes I feel like, I can see it at the foot of my bed.
Yeah.
So if, I wake up in the middle of the night, I'm always afraid to, look in the mirror because I feel like I'm gonna see something.
Yeah, not like your bathroom, the two fucking mirrors in front of each other. With the, the scene from, well, you haven't seen it, but there's a scene in the movie It where, I forget which character it was, looked in a hall of mirrors, and, when you stand in front of them, you see yourself all the way down. But, it comes out of one way the fuck down, one
Fuck
of them.
that.
Just one of them, it's insane. No.
I'm not afraid of clowns. I just don't like that.
I mean, listening to, scary stories and shit, mirrors are kind of creeping me out.
Oh, dude.
Lately.
I know Scared to Death's got a few.
Yeah, that I've been listening to that, and mirrors are kind of...
The mirrors?
Yeah.
Fuck that. You got anything else?
No, this episode comes out...
This episode will be out... It should be out next Friday, and next Friday is the 13th.
Actually,
next Friday is the 12th. My bad.
12th. Actually, we're going to have 2 episodes.
We will have 2 episodes.
So
get caught up for this
episode
month.
1 and episode 2.
Yep.
Because we're doing a state a month, we're gonna do. Hopefully, we're gonna start at every Friday. Sorry.
No, we're gonna do every Friday.
Yeah, we're gonna do every Friday. What I was trying to get at was we're starting at the beginning of a month, so we can have a whole month for the state. So we're gonna have
Right.
like hauntings, and they're not gonna be like one certain.
Yeah, they're not going to be like one certain like area or one certain type of haunting.
Yeah.
We'll do, urban legends. We'll
Like next week, I'm gonna have missing persons
that would be
mixed
pretty
with something else.
I've got next week. I think I've got a couple historical landmarks.
Sweet.
That's all I'm gonna say for now. I'm gonna leave up the suspense.
So we're gonna have some mystery hauntings. Eventually, we're gonna have some cryptids from Missouri.
I do want to do some cryptids. We'll have to do that probably the last week of Missouri, and that's the 26th. Like the last week of March for Missouri.
Yeah.
It was the 26th. Because the 2nd starts the next state.
Yeah.
And if anybody listening has any ideas of where to go, any stories they want to share, feel free to message us on our Facebook page, our Twitter, or our Instagram at afraidishpodcast. Right?
Yes, and our email is afraidishpodcast@gmail.com.
Also, soon we will have a webpage or website, whatever you want to fucking call it. You can reach us at afraid-ishpodcast.com.
But it's not up yet. It's in progress. We're still working on it.
It's stuck in limbo. Don't forget to rate, review, wherever you get your podcasts, or wherever you listen, YouTube, Google Play, I think. Is that still a thing?
I don't know.
Spotify, Apple Music, Stitcher, wherever the fuck you get your podcasts.
And remember, don't be afraid of the dark. Be
afraid-ish of what's in it.
Thanks for listening.
See you next week.